It's August the 5th, 2024. I am out hiking the nature trail on Green Mountain in Madison County, Alabama. There is a covered bridge and a lake and a nice trail and nobody but me. So it gives me the opportunity that I can just sit here and talk because I'm about ready to start a new episode. The last thing I did, it was very taxing on me. Is not one of my favorite periods of life, difficulties. But as normal, life goes on, So I'm living in Illinois. Finally, the in-laws moved. Things are, like I said, I got the sword in one hand and the plow in the other, and just getting after it. But one of the main things is I want to start, and I don't know how long it's going to take, but I want to start a thing on children. One of my friends asked me to, he started asking me questions because he's met my kids as adults and all that, and they're all great kids. They're all doing well, and he's wondering how. Well, I really I think there's a lot to learn, about child rearing from old people because our world's falling apart. It really is. And before I start something with the children, I have to. I don't know, man. I just have to. There's some things that just bother me about where our society is headed, where our country's headed, where my people are headed. There's a lot going on that has been, I guess, pushed aside as conspiracy theories and things. But unfortunately, it's not a conspiracy theory, and I'm just going to go ahead and tell you my theory, and I may be wrong. I really hope that I am. But unfortunately, I am a student of history, and history is repeating itself right now. It really is. We have a horrible, horrible political situation in America. Things have gone on that I never dreamt. I never dreamt that I would see. Oh man, look at my mustache here. See, I can't shave until I get done with this. I gotta get talking. But there are things that I've studied in history. I'm in a sort of a peculiar position, as far as history goes, because my mother was a history maker. She really was. She was raised in Nazi Germany and all those things, and I asked her about how did this happen? How did such an intelligent, cultured people, they're artists and scientists and literature writers. The German people have done great things, and somehow, some way, they were guilty of the Holocaust. I mean, they're guilty. There's no doubt about it. They're guilty as guilty could be. But what happened to them? And my mother was one of them. She was caught up in it, and so I've inquired of her, and I've read the beginning of World War I and World War II, and I see a lot of similarities in our society right now. We're I'm moving all around here. I didn't bring my stick, but that's okay. Just listen. Don't pay attention to the man in the screen. But we are looking at a time that I was sort of it just befuddled me. There's a couple historical questions that have always befuddled me. What would it be like being being in a society that is going down the tubes rapidly? What was it like in Germany from the 1930 to 1945? What went on? How did those people get hoodwinked or bamboozled by Nazis? It's just It's just mind-boggling to me because most Germans they're just decent people. All they just, like everybody else, they just want to go to work and come home to their family and not have to worry. But they got caught up in this thing, and it happened around them. And they started yanking Jews and off the streets, and all those things started happening. Then there were rumors and all that. And I thought, I can't imagine that happening. Well, now I can't imagine it. Now we go from we'll say 1935 to 2024, and in the United States we suddenly have this thing with anti-Semitism in our country. You know, I mean, believe me, I am not a fan of the Jewish people. I'm not. I believe that there is a lot of conspiracy stuff that they're responsible for, but not just Jewish people. There's a leadership, and there's an evil cabal of them, just like there's an evil cabal of Americans and an evil cabal of Russians and Chinese or whatever. I mean, there's this big thing that is happening. And I'm seeing the same things that led up to World War I and World War II transpiring. You see the United States is on one side with our allies, the Europeans, and then you have the Russians, the Chinese, the Iranians, the North Koreans, whatever on the other side. But the key is the alliances. We have alliances, and these alliances are what made the world just tumble into this huge conflagration called World War I and World War II. So now we have alliances, and we keep encircling the Russians with NATO. NATO is an anti-Russian organization. It was created to be a check to Russia, but now it's this huge organization, and there's no buffer for the Russians. Why are they in Ukraine? They said out loud, "Hey, we need a buffer here. We don't want your missiles sitting on our border. We don't want NATO sitting on our border, and we have no reaction time if you were to just attack us." I understand that completely, but we would not leave well enough alone, and we started just the encirclement. We are encircling Russia with NATO, and we're encircling China with a bunch of islands all around in the South China Sea and all that. We have bases. We've got these bases, and now the Marine Corps strategy has changed. They're not a mobile land on the beach force. Now they've gotten rid of the tanks in the American Marine Corps, and now their job is to sit on a bunch of islands with missiles to sink Chinese ships and shoot down Chinese missiles and whatever, but we're encircling them. Well, they're not liking it, they're not liking it any more than we were liking it when the Russians tried to put missiles in Cuba, right? It's the same thing. But, of course, we were right there, and the Chinese and Russians are wrong with with us putting missiles on their border. And, I'm sorry, but in my lifetime, the Russians and the Chinese have not been aggressive militarily like the United States. The United States goes from war to war to war. We do indeed have a functioning military-industrial complex. I've got my kids, half of my kids work to sustain that military-industrial complex. And you see the amount of money generated for these missiles and missile defense systems that are produced here in Huntsville, Alabama, and it's big business. I mean, it's huge. They're huge corporations and all. The more missiles that we shoot off and our allies shoot off, the more money they make. And I hate to say it, but there haven't been many wars of principle of late. I mean, we make up the excuses, but the real wars of principle aren't there. The Middle East, those people are crazy. We have no dog in that fight. Yeah, give the Israelis weapons or whatever. That's no problem. But if those people over there kill each other, so what? It doesn't affect us in the least bit. We got our own oil. We've got a government that hates its own people. Unfortunately, here in the United States, and we've got oil, but they insist on not drilling it. I hope Trump changes that, but he may not. But there's a lot happening. I mean, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of sort of international intrigue kind of things, and a lot of long-term plans that affect my children, and my grandchildren, and it's sad to see, even the Olympics. I mean, I'm sorry, but I watched the Olympics opening ceremony, and it was totally disgusting. I'd look at it for a little while and I say, what is this? What is this? I mean, they had queers all over the place, all over each other, things dressed up like who knows what, all these transsexual, and then Satanism. I mean, the satanic costumes, and I mean, even they're slipping Satanism and all this queer stuff in all the commercials, even on TV. It's insane. You would think, what country would actually be pleased with that? Well, apparently the Western countries, the Americans and the Europeans are responsible for that mess over there in France, and they've made themselves look really weak and stupid. Like Joe Biden, he makes us look really weak and stupid, even though we're not weak and we're not stupid. But if we're not led properly, we are weak and stupid. And so we've got a real weakness and a stupidity going on in our government that is allowing our culture to become gender neutral. They want us to be a bunch of wimps that do what we're told, go to work, make money for the corporations and all that, and go home and shut up. I mean, that's it. They look at the average citizen in our country as well as around the world as working drones. That's what they want. The public education system is meant just to educate us enough to work in factories and be drones, not really to be critical thinkers, And now I'm finding out what it was like in the time of Germany. Your culture's going down the tubes, and the book, The Rise and Fall of the Roman Empire. I wondered how in the world could such a great empire just crumble like it did, and it crumbled from cultural weakness. It crumbled from importing slaves. It crumbled from ease, bread and circuses and things like that. And all that is going on, All of those things are happening in the United States. We are not a tough people like those that moved here initially. The ones that came to America, settled America. I mean, they beat the Indians and took it, pretty much beat the Mexicans and took it, beat the British and took it, beat the French and took it. We just took it. Manifest destiny. So we got it now, and we're being worked on. Our culture's being worked on, and they're diluting the strength of the people. They're diluting the family unit. They're diluting our unity. There were like there were a couple of million Indians that couldn't run a handful of Europeans off. Came in boats. They couldn't get rid of them. Well, they could have if they'd had unity, but they were split into 20,000 different tribes, and they were more interested in fighting each other. And that's what's going on with us. It's just sad to see. And like I said, the cultural rot I worry about with my children and especially my children's children. It's a grave concern to me. This it's just so bizarre that people just go along. They went along with the Nazis. They went along with the Romans as things were falling apart. Now there was a handful of people that they cried wolf and all that, but it didn't do any good because people just went along. And now I see uh, we have a rising anti-Semitism in the United States. What are we going to do? Nothing. Nothing. Gave a couple of college presidents grief. But half of our Congress uh, is with them. I mean, this is really sad. It's sad what's going on, and I try to understand it, but unfortunately, I do understand it, and it's scary. You see the watering down of our national strength and character. This crazy Biden and these Democrats just letting hordes of people into our country unchecked, unvetted. Just hordes of ignorant campesinos or whatever from Central and South America. People with no education. People that are just desperate, and we're inviting. We got the open door policy. I just read this morning. Now they just somehow with their phone they call Border Patrol and get an appointment to get picked up. Uh, that's really happening? It's happening. We deep under President Trump, we deported a bunch of criminals and their families and stuff, and Joe Biden uh, went down to Central America and South America, found them, and flew them back with the American taxpayers' money to be mooches and live off our social system. It's just insane. And I know his motivation is personal. His motivation is I'll bring these ignorant people over, tell them that they need to vote for me or they won't get a check, and we're set for life. And it's true. It's true. We've reached that point where more people can vote themselves a check than there are people to stop it. So it's interesting now, and it's going to get more interesting. All right, as well as this cultural thing, this invasion that we're allowing. I read just this last weekend. I read this last weekend in it was Minnesota. Some 20-some-year-old Arab dude has bought a sod farm in Minnesota, 260 acres, and he's going to turn it into a Muslim community. Interesting. Yeah. He's going to build a huge mosque right in the middle of this subdivision, and everything around it is going to be Muslim. And he's saying, yes, us Muslims will be able to come home and see people that look like us and people that worship like us. People that I'm sorry, yeah, it is shame. Share the same culture, or whatever. So they're planning this Muslim segregated community, and that's against the law in the United States. You can't do that stuff. You can't just say, okay, this is a white community, there are no blacks allowed. You can't do that. You can't say this is a black community, no whites allowed. You can't say anything like that. It's a free, open country, but the Muslims, they're working. They're working. They've got people in Congress. They've got control of parts of Michigan completely, Dearborn, Michigan, in our country, and then overseas. Oh my goodness, they have allowed those people in by the droves into Europe, and you can just go on YouTube, and you can listen to Muslim preachers preaching in the Middle East to their young men to go to Europe because the European men are too weak to breed their women. So you need to go there and breed European women and create more Muslims and just take them over just by virtue of breeding because the Europeans are weak. And sure enough, the Europeans are not replenishing. They're so morally weak, and the men are so demasculated, and all that stuff. Hello. That it's really crazy, It's not changing. It's really really insane. But as I just scan the news just the last few days, I see there big big riots in Britain over a mass stabbing. Some crazy Muslim African guy went to a Taylor Swift concert, little kids in England, and stabbed a bunch of them, killed several of them, and all that. Well, the people are tired of it, and so now they're starting to they're starting to rebel against it, I guess, and they're starting to riot over it. The British people are starting to riot because of these imported savages just wreaking havoc on their country, and they are, man, they are. I mean, they're raping, they're stabbing, they've created no-go zones where if you're not one of them, you can't even walk through their neighborhood. All that's going on, and so the British people, they stab a bunch of little girls at a Taylor Swift concert. Yeah, they're gonna be hostile, and so they start rioting, and suddenly, they're the enemy, the extreme. They got a new guy in Britain, Biden time, so he has to stand against the extreme right that's causing this racial division. No, it's not the extreme right. It's just that's common people. They're just the common Joes, and the common Joes are getting swarmed with these savages, and the savages are taking over their country, and they're starting to fight back. Everywhere they're going, the Muslims, everywhere that every country that lets them in has problems with them, and they're thinking that they're going to get cheap labor, and those people don't work, man. They're not into it. Germany is so emasculated that the men. I don't know. It just disgusts me. It does. It disgusts me. Get to the point that men can't even reproduce because they're such wimps. I just it just makes me sick. I don't. I'm sorry. You may think I'm right or wrong or indifferent. I don't really care. It makes me sick. It makes me sick to see all this queer stuff everywhere in the United States, queer stuff all over Europe and all that. No wonder the Russians don't want to have anything to do with the European culture. No wonder, man. Let me look at them. The Russians, they're still men. The Europeans, a bunch of weenies. They're just despicable in my eyes. As far as being a man goes, it's awful. I've been there, and the women are definitely more masculine than the men, and it's taking its toll. And the same thing's happening now, brother, right in our country, United States of America. This thing that people are so stupid. I hate to have to say this out in this beautiful area here, but people are so stupid that you can look at a naked man standing in front of you with his naked man parts and then say, what is that, a man or a woman? You say, well, it's a man. Oh, no, it's not. It says it's a woman, so it's a woman, right? And you have to say that it's a woman. And you have to accept that it's a woman, and you have to let it participate in sports with your little girl and beat her to a pulp in boxing like they're doing in the Olympics. I can't believe they're doing this. Or in the United States, we're doing this stuff in the United States, and finally, at least some of the high school and college athletes are saying, what is this? You're putting these dudes in here, these cross-dressing weirdos. They've got their own protected little class now, and it's rotting. Everything is just rotting our whole society. So what's happening? We're at the point now that if there were to be a real war, a general military call-up, our country couldn't muster enough real men to fight anybody. We couldn't. Those Europeans, those bunch of weenies, they couldn't muster enough real men to stand up against a first world army. They couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. They might as well just give up now, But there's a plan to weaken our culture, and it's working. It's working. It's sad because our children are the ones that pay. Now they're growing up in this world where where you don't know whether someone's a man or a woman or whatever. Flip a coin when you're like 8 years old. You can decide what you want to be and go to school, and they'll give you puberty blockers and hide stuff from your parents and all that. I mean, what is going on? What what are we leaving to our children here? I mean, it's an androgynous mess of some kind of humanity that can't even figure out how to replace itself. It's just insane. It's just insane. But in this world, you look and I see all of the things uh, coming for a world war. We have a president that is mentally disabled, and nobody will get him out. Nobody will get him out. He was being charged with some corruption stuff, and and the judge found him mentally incompetent to stand trial. But he's still the president, you know. And then he's going to run against Trump again, and they put him up there where he had to talk, and realized, hey, this dude's brain dead. So now they put this weird Kamala in there or whatever. Man, I'm telling you, if she's president, we're toast. But so it's happening. It's happening. The whole thing with the cultural rot, the whole thing with the alliances, the whole thing with bad leadership, the whole thing with the media controlling the minds of people to the point that they can't even figure out what sex they are. It's all happening. And in the midst of it all, we have to raise our little children, right? Yeah, I mean, you have to. You have to. I've got 5 kids. I got 8 grandkids. Yeah, my kids are great. I'm not worried about them. They're fine. I mean, they're intelligent enough to see what's going on, and they've been taught well enough to think for themselves. And the bad thing is, people are just like sheep. Just like in the Roman Empire, give me the beer, give me the football. Just like in other great cultures, where the leadership fails and the people fail and the media is just brainwashing. It's sad, but I am going to continue on and start the thing on children. It's a little more positive. I'm tired of negative stuff, but I'm sorry. This is the world we live in, and it is negative, and we have to resist. So this is my little blurb here. The beginning of child rearing is keep your personal culture strong. Keep your personal culture. Teach them to do right things. Teach them to understand what's going on, and it'll all work out eventually. Shall be continued. Thank you.